All right. If anybody out there is a fan of country rock, soft rock is maybe a misnomer, but sort of the mellow rock vibes of the 70s, something akin to what the Mile High Club, a current band, has been trying to emulate in recent years. This release right there, Oral's Closet, sort of an archival look at a producer from the 70s, and these are a bunch of like demo tapes and lost tracks and bands you never heard of who never made it. And it is just a really good sort of Sunday afternoon, slightly country rock, slightly folk rock, but just that 70s chill vibe that if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But this is absolutely amazing listen. Probably the big draw as far as like bands you've heard of. There's a couple early Hall and Oates tracks on there, which sound nothing like what Hall and Oates would eventually become. But it is just, I don't know, a fantastic listen. Check it out if you have the chance. All right, on to the final Dick's Picks reviews. What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, currently ranking and reviewing and now finishing a complete survey of the Grateful Dead's Dick's Picks. All 36 releases released over a span of about 12 years. Last one came out in 2005. Each release a concert release or a sort of a compilation of songs from like two or three dates to like simulate a concert. And I have to say that I'm doing them in groups of six because they were released in like thematic groups of six. This one has I'm going to have to grab a copy of these. They're all in the other room. But you'll see when we get to it. This group of six, they have the artistic, the cover album, the cover of each one of sort of is thematically linked. So I'm doing them in groups of six, ranking these six from 6 to 1, and then at the end of this video, I'll show you my complete ranking for all 36. But I will say this: this series of releases, all 36, has been an unmitigated success. The only one I actually think is not any good is the very last one, which was a show I was at, Oakland Coliseum, 92. I think I just have bad memories of it because of the disappointment level of hearing a Dark Star that was not better than, say, a Scarlet Jam or a Playin' Jam or maybe even a Cassidy Jam at that time. So I was disappointed with that. So I hold that with me. But these are great. All of them are phenomenal. And this ranking ultimately boils down to like my favorite era, you know. But I think if other people were to say, no, you're wrong. What you have is 27 is my number one. I understand that. And I think this group of six, I thought this group of six was the strongest. And then I ranked them and then inserted them in the complete list. And it is. This is by far the strongest group of six. Adding up their rankings, so like if you were number one, you got a 1. If you were 36, you got a 36, right? So a low score is good. This group of six, its cumulative total was 76. Compare that to the next best group of six, which was 13 through 18. Their cumulative was 78. So those sort of the third group and the sixth group are by far, I think, the strongest groups. The weakest two groups were 1 through 6 and 25 through 30. Quite a big difference between those and the other two. 7 through 12 was a 91, so it wasn't too far off, but that had like a 92 show that, or 91 show that ruined those numbers. And then number one was a 116, 1 through 6. And then right in the middle, the 19 through 24, which was a 101. But this is the strongest group of six. And if you had, I'm going to rank these from 6 through 1. If you had the inverse order of this, I would completely understand because this really is ranked by sort of, other than number one, which completely blows me out of the water every time I listen to it. The rest of these kind of just fall in line to how I would rank the tours if I rank the tours. But all these shows are spectacular. I don't think any of them have a single moment you must hear, except for one of them. But they're all so consistently great. And several of them have like a set list moment, like a segue where you're looking at it going, that's a pretty interesting thing, where it is as well performed as it is interesting. So there's that payoff. But I don't think any of them are like, the ultimate version of these songs, except for one of them. One of the songs is to me my favorite from this, not my favorite song, but maybe my favorite song, but my favorite version of this song in all 36, which is something I will address at the end of the video. So I'm going to talk about these six, and then I'm going to rank 1 through 36. I'll show that list, and then I'm going to rank the Dark Stars. There's only one in this group, but man, is it a good one. But yeah, anyways. Oh, and I started this channel to only do things Zappa related. Frank mentions the Dead in Teenage Win, the first song on You Are What You Is. I've already done the Dead albums, my favorite songs. Now we're on to this. But anyways, yeah, thanks. And on to number 6. Number 6 is number 32. This is a 3-disc set, The Complete Show from August 7th, 1982. This is just a fantastic show from start to finish. Like, the energy is incredible. There's a couple really neat list choices on here. One song is presented for the first time in this entire series. But it's just a really, really good 82 show with a couple really, really nice treats. So the entire disc 1 is essentially the first set, though they throw the encore at the end of it to squeeze that in there. But it opens up with The Music Never Stopped, into Sugary, back into Music Never Stop. I think they did that twice. And right when they enter sort of the Music Never Stop jam, the vibe just gets like spacey. Like, it just goes out to like Playing in the Band vibes instead of like that spacey going in the direction of funk music vibe. It goes in a different direction. And then Jerry just starts playing the chords to Sugary. The band jumps right in. It's a pretty good Sugary. Middle jam especially is pretty sweet. And then after Sugary kind of just ends, they sort of space their way back into a Music Never Stop jam climax that is just utterly fantastic. Like, maybe not the best segues between the songs, but the energy never lags and it just works perfectly. The rest of the set, some of the highlights, it must have been the Roses. I'm always there for a Roses. A CC Rider, a pretty good CC Rider. I think these earlier CC, or these early 80s CC Riders are pretty strong. A really good Beat It On Down the Line, and then right after that, they go right into On the Road Again. So we get a Beat It On Down the Road Again, like a rare electric On the Road Again. Fantastic. A pretty solid Althea, little bit lazy Althea, but it's got some good energy. And then a Let It Grow, in which the energy levels just like keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and Jerry is all over this. Really, really solid Let It Grow. Maybe not one of the best ones in this series, just because we have all these like early 70, these 73 and 74 ones that have like these ending jams that segue into other things. Later in this video, I will talk about that. But a really, really solid Let It Grow. Second set opens with a China Rider. The transition from China into Rider is like kind of almost one of those must hear. Really good energy. Kind of goes in a slightly different direction. Really kind of pushing, kind of like a Let It Grow, just kind of reaching these really nice peaks before kind of settling into a really high energy Know You Rider. Then one of the great treats of this series, because it hasn't been released so far, we get a Man Smart, Woman Smarter. Not a song I want to hear all the time, but this is a really solid version of that. A Ship of Fools, Playing in the Band, which is pretty decent. Not the greatest Playing in the Band, but we get a nice 6-7 minute jam out of that. We get a drum space, we get a wheel coming out, we go back into a little bit of Playing in the Band, then we get a pretty solid Morning Dew, not the greatest Morning Dew, and then one more Saturday Night to close. Solid show from start to finish, but I really think that first set and that China Rider are that peak. And then really the thing that kind of carries the rest of the show. That energy creates enough good vibes where the rest of the show is highly enjoyable. Definitely not bad. But yeah, so that's it. Solid show. And if you check out anything, I think that Sugary music is worth checking out, just because it's so interesting, and they do kind of pull it off. So yeah, number 6 is number 32, a complete 82 show from August 7th. Number 5 is number 33. This is 2 complete shows from 1976, October 9th and October 10th. This is one of those where it's like, again, it's 76. You got a lot of interesting set choices where songs are kind of put in weird places. The Dead are sort of experimenting with the way they're going to look after their hiatus. Energy is really strong throughout. I don't think there's another 76 release on here, number 20, which is also from 1976. That's sort of their coming out party. And I think Those shows have slightly better jams, or that release has some better jams on it, some better song choices. And so this is absolutely fantastic. And though it falls at number 5 and ultimately is ranked in the mid 20s out of these 36, that's only because everything else is so ridiculously good. But some of the highlights, for me at least, in the middle of the first set, there's a nice, healthy Scarlet Begonias that is just really well jammed and really well played, just a standalone, not coupled with fire yet. That's followed by a Lazy Lightning Supplication. Again, well performed, both of these. And then to close out the first set, a not yet as monstrous as it would be in 77, but a Sugary closing out the first set, which is an odd place to put Sugary, but kind of, I think, indicates the way the Dead were starting to feel about this song, or the way Jerry was starting to feel about the song, and then would sort of hint at the incredibly epic heights it would reach by the following year. Second set opens up with a Saint Stephen. We get a Saint Stephen, Not Fade Away, back into a Saint Stephen, and then in a weird, abrupt edit into Help on the Way. Really nice Help on the Way, high energy, a Slipknot that goes off into space, like it just kind of completely falls apart in the middle of the jam. That turns into drums for like 3.5 minutes. That goes into Samson and Delilah. And as soon as Samson ends, that space reforms and they go back into Slipknot and finish out a really, really nice Slipknot jam after that Samson and Delilah. And then we get to Franklin's Tower. So like a help, slip, drums, Delilah, Franklin, slip, Franklin. Phenomenal sequence, phenomenal run. Probably, I think, the sweet spot of this CD. And that's pretty much the first show. The second show opens up with a Might As Well, which is pretty good. Nice to hear that. We get a good El Paso, a good Loser in the middle, a really good Deal. And then to close out the first set, we get a Dancing in the Streets with a really good jam. Another one of those things where it just kind of like goes off into Space Zone and you lose that disco-ness of it. And then that goes into Wharf Rat. We're talking this is in the end of the first set. And then we get a really solidly performed Wharf Rat. I think we're missing the last verse, the got up and wondered. I don't think they do that. But then after they do that, they kind of jam it off and it goes back into the Dancing in the Street jam. And we get that written part, that dun dun dun, that written part that they throw at the end. And then we finish out the song. But just a completely random segue that works. It might not be the most epic transition and it doesn't sound like they planned it out, but it works. And then the second set, we get a Samson, a Brown Eyed Woman, a pretty nice playing in the band, not the craziest, drums, wheel, space, or more like a space jam, I guess. Into the other one. This is another instance where on some of these releases, that would have just been a longer other one, but it really is a space. Into the other one. Stella Blue, a playing in the band reprise, and a Sugar Mag. Really solid performing in that second show, but I really think that first show is almost magical, and almost the things they're experimenting with and splitting up Slipknot works well and pays off some good dividends. So really solid listen from a very interesting year for the Dead. Number 33, 2 shows from October 76. Number 4 is number 35. These are material from 371 shows, a Hollywood show on August 6th, a San Diego show on the 7th, and a Chicago show on the 24th. And these, I think, all come from what is called the houseboat tapes. They were found on a houseboat and like recently, like shortly before, not recently, contemporarily with this release, like right before I think this release came out, they were discovered. And these tapes were given to Keith Godchaux to familiarize himself with the material that they were playing shortly after he joined the band. And so I don't think these were in circulation at all prior to this release, so this was quite a surprise. Again, another just really, really high energy, incredibly well played, just 4 CD from start to finish. Excellent snapshot of the 71 band, which if you compare it to the 72 band, which is going to appear on this list eventually, this is still a very raw sounding band. And this version in particular is only a 5-piece because Mickey Hart is on a leave of absence at this point, like taking some time off. And we have Pigpen, but we don't have Godchaux, we don't have Constantine on organ or piano or anything like that. So it's just the 5 members, like the 5 core members. And it has more of a 68 like 69, 70 rawness than it does a 72 polishness, but it's kind of in between that because they're introducing new songs. They're kind of pushing the boundaries. It's got some really good treats on it. One of the greatest treats ever, CD4. This is from the material that is on the Halloween show. It's just the Halloween show is about maybe the majority of the fourth disc. There's a Good Lovin' that starts it off from the 24th, but it opens up with the other one, a pretty raw, aggressive other one that effortlessly, beautifully, surprisingly good, well, whatever the verb is, the adjective is for that, adverb, goes into Me and My Uncle. We get the other one, a Me and My Uncle, back into the other one. Just an inspired segue that works beautifully. Plus, the rest of that show, you get a really solid Morning Dew with some high energy, a really good Turn on Your Love Light. It's 25 minutes long. It's a little too long for my love lights, but there's a couple really, really sweet jams in there, and it just sounds so good. The first two discs are mostly stuff from the San Diego show. The first set, just a lot of high energy short songs. You get some good Pigpen songs in there. You get a Hard to Handle, which we don't have a lot of. You get a really good Cumberland Blues, a mid-set Bertha. The second set, you have a Truckin', pretty good China Rider, a Sing Me Back Home, which I'm always a fan of. They played that a lot in 71, 72, but it's nice to see another release of this. A Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road, really nice jam out of the Going Down the Road before they get back into I don't think they go back into Not Fade Away. I think they go into Johnny. Right, they go into Johnny Be Good. So they never resume that Not Fade Away. I don't think they were doing all the time here. And then we get from the 24th show, pretty nice Uncle John's band, kind of short but pretty sweet. Really short playing in the band. I think this is one of the first times they played it. They're not exploring space in these play-ins. A Loser, and then the third CD, a lot of more like short songs from this Chicago show. Get a good It Hurts Me Too. We get a song called Empty Pages, a Pigpen song, which was only performed a handful of times. I'm pretty sure this is the only time it was been released. Definitely nothing as epic as The Stranger, Two Souls in Communion, but still a pretty good song, kind of a neat song to hear. A Beat It On Down the Line. We get a St. Stephen, Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road. This time we go back into Not Fade Away. We get a Me and Bobby McGee, which we don't have a lot of in these releases. A Big Boss Man. So not really epic jammy. We're not really going into space. Some really nice segues. The energy is solid from start to finish, so it's a really good listen that way. Also, it's kind of a rare snapshot of an incarnation of the band that we don't have a lot of elsewhere. So for all these reasons, that is the number 4, right? No, that is the number 3. Yeah, so number 35, right? Number 3? Yeah, number 35. Some 71 shows. All right, on to number 2. That's obviously number 4. Number 4. Now on to number 3. Number 3 is number 34, the complete show from 11/5/77, a New York show with some bonus tracks from a Toronto show on November 2nd. Again, another 77 show. And this show, despite one interesting thing on the set list, I think, maybe not even one interesting thing on the set list. No, not really. It's like when you go to like a restaurant and you're like, you look at the menu and you're like, oh, there's nothing really interesting on here. Like, I've had all this stuff before, but you're like, oh yeah, but these versions of this stuff are literally the best versions you will ever have. Like, this is what you want to eat. You like hamburgers, you want to eat this hamburger over any other. So that's kind of the way I feel about 77 to a large degree. Though there are some truly, truly sort of special moments on here. Really, it's just solid, consistent epicness from like start to finish, because this band is so just tuned in. Even by the end of the year, after they've been peaking so hard early, it's just perfect. Opens up with the New Minglewood Blues, whatever you think about that. But then there's a Mississippi half step that almost sort of reaches like sugary potential, where Jerry is pushing that ending jam, and we are going to just some truly epic places. So by the time they get to that lazy river at the end, you're just like, I need this. Like, I need to just fade out with this energy. Just epic, just phenomenal. Rest of the set is okay. There's a Big River. There's a Candyman, which is always good to hear. really good jackstraw, a really good deal, high energy deal. Just some really good stuff. Again, you look at the set list, like I've heard all these things before, but these are just phenomenal versions. Like there's nothing wrong with them. We get to the second set. Phil's taking a full-on bass solo to open up. We got to take the step back chant. Then we go into an Eyes of the World. It's just like they're so good. The 77 band is just so absolutely like Jerry is so on point all the time. Like as soon as like the verses sound good, the chorus sounds good, and as soon as we get into that solo zone, Jerry is just off, and it is just he is so fluid and engaging and interesting and just kind of like exploring typical Eyes territory, but at the same time kind of going into other places. It's just effortless. Like it is so smooth and good. Then we get a Samson and Delilah, and another It Must Have Been the Roses. Again, I can take as many It Must Have Been the Roses as they want to give me. Then to fill out disc 2, we get some bonus tracks from the second. We get a Might As Well, kind of a short, kind of a, seems like an abbreviated Might As Well, an okay Might As Well. But what follows next is really the sweet part. A really good Estimated Prophet, into a Saint Stephen, into a Truckin', and then in Around and Around to close. Just really well performed, high energy songs. And then disc 3, this is a 3-disc set, closes out with another phenomenal Estimated Prophet, into a He's Gone. We get a drums. We get a really good other one that is very almost playing in the bandish. Like it's definitely not very aggressive. It's very sort of, Jerry, he's definitely in the other one zone, but he's not getting mean or ugly. He's just kind of spacily sinister, if that makes any sense. But it's a really good other one. Kind of takes a while to develop. Payoff in the middle is really nice. And then it glows in. It kind of fades away and falls apart before we get a Black Peter, which we don't have enough of in this Sticks Pick series. So a really nice Black Peter. Always a good song that's to hear. Doesn't quite have the pain as some of those like late 80s, 90s versions when Jerry just struggled to perform it, but a really good Black Peter. And then there's another bonus track after a One More Saturday Night, another Lazy Lightning Supplication. Again, really good energy in the supplication. Just a really nice sort of improv space that they're given to explore where a lot of just kind of weird different things can happen. So yeah, man, just awesome 77 show. Again, you look at the menu and you're like, I've had all this stuff before, but you're like, yeah, but these guys make it better than anybody else. Well, maybe not that other band that's going to appear on the list next, but these guys make it as good as anybody else. Number 3, number 34, a show from 77. Number 2 is number 31, 4 discs of material from 1974, my favorite year, which just tells you how remarkably good I think number 1 is because it's not from 74. August 4th, 5th, and 6th, you get the first disc is sort of a set list made up of material from the 4th and the 5th. Then I think disc 2 is the rest of the 4th, or the second set of the 4th. I think disc 3 is stuff from the 5th, and then disc 4 is a chunk of brilliance, absolute brilliance from the 6th. This is number 2 on this list, but it's jumped to give away the ending all the way to number 10. It made the top 10, which shows you how good I think this last one is. 2 of my all-time favorite moments in this series are on here. The opening track, which is a playing in the band, a 25-minute playing in the band that is just, it's just a playing in the band. And Jerry's all over the place. I mean, he's spacey, he's jazzy, he's sort of a little aggressive. He gets King Crimson-ish a couple times. There's another playing in the band on this set. Also my favorite, that he also gets kind of King Crimson-y, where he's doing this, like things that Fripp would play, it sounds like. Neither one of these gets too crazy out there, but that's kind of why I like it, is like, this one is 25 on disc 1. I think the one on disc 2 is like 23, right? It's 22 and a half minutes. And neither one of them really spend any time in that deep, deep, echoey space where they're making noise and there is a lot of space. They're pretty hard-hitting, consistent, exploratory jams from start to finish, like that are just like the minute, like not the minute, the instance they stop playing that sort of main 10 theme, the do-do-do-do, that opening theme before they go into the jam, As soon as they're done with that, Phil's like, doo, 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 like leading them off into like deep exploratory territory. Exploratory territory? That makes no sense. But yeah, just two of the most rewarding re-listens and re-listens and re-listens. And that's just two songs. So disc one, again, it's the stuff from fourth and the fifth. You get a plan, you get a Scarlet Begonias, really good Jackstraw Peggio, a Me and My Bobby McGee again in this last run of six. That's popping up again, Me and Bobby McGee. Really nice China Rider. This is a 74 China Rider, so the China's nice and stretched out. And then around and around to finish out that disc. Disc two is a chunk of stuff from the fourth. Ship of Fools opener, a Loose Lucy, which is nice. This is the slightly faster, more faster version of Loose Lucy than would be the one that they brought back later on in like the 90s, right? I don't think they brought it back to the 90s. Really nice Weather Report suite. Again, these Weather Report suites, those Let It Grows, had really nice jams after it. And this one has a phenomenal jam after it that eventually, like a 10-minute jam, that eventually find its way into a Wharf Rat. And then we get a US Blues, Sugar Mag, Casey Jones. Just solid, really good stuff from this era. Second set, strong Mississippi to open, or at least, the August 5th, disc 3. We get a Mississippi. And that Mississippi goes into It Must Have Been the Roses. So we get another Must Have Been the Roses, a double shot of Jerry. And then this must be a bunch of second set material, because then we get a really good He's Gone into Truckin'. Really, really nice jam after Truckin' that goes into an Other One jam, in which I think it's Jerry that starts sort of the dun 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 dun, but then we never actually like sink our teeth into that riff, so we never actually get to the other one. That eventually sort of drops off after a couple minutes into just Space. We get some deep 74 version of Space, and out of that comes a Stella Blue. Just a phenomenal run of like the Dead not ever stopping playing, exploring different ideas, being comfortable to like step into the other one, but realize that wasn't the direction we wanted to go, and then just abandon it for like just emptiness, essentially, musical vacuum, a vacuum of just space. Just magic, man. And then the disc 4 is perfect. Disc 4 is perfect. We get a 20-minute Eyes of the World. This is 74, so we got that sort of Stronger Than Dirt-esque jam at the end that they explore very well. Jerry is taking his time in these solos. It sounds amazing. Then we get a Plan. Not as good as the first one, but still pretty epic. That immediately goes into a Scarlet. And the Scarlet kind of feels a little like the rhythm they're trying to figure out, because it comes out of this Plan, but they eventually sink their teeth into it. They jam that out. They return back to the Scarlet theme at the end of the jam, and then after they play that theme, they immediately go back into like deep space, playing in the band type jazzy material. Not that deep echoey space, but just that like free form all over the place playing jam. They go back into that, they reprise it, and then they go back into Uncle John, and then they have an Uncle John's band to close out. And that Uncle John's band, the jam, that middle jam in it is just, at one point they almost seem to like slow it down where they're still jamming over it like a high speed, but it has this weird sort of like elongated weird feel about it that's just perfect, just effortless, just like so incredible. But yeah, this jumped all the way to number 10, which shows you how much I absolutely love the one that comes next. But this is a sick release, which I will admit my bias is right now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 discs from the 73, 74 era in the top 10. Obviously my favorite era. This is the Bill Kreutzmann's the only drummer. I think his drumming style gave it a very jazzy minimalist, but not I don't know. I don't know. I love Kreutzmann as a drummer. I love them both, but I think there's really something special when it was only Kreutzmann. As you can hear on this, as you can hear on the previous release, the 71 release from number 4. But yeah, phenomenal. But anyways, on to a surprisingly epic release. And number one in this group of 6, number 5 overall, to give away that ending, the last thing they released, number 36, a 4-disc set of the complete 9/21/72 show, with a little sampling of stuff from the 9/3 show, 72. That sampling being like a 30-minute Other One. Yeah, right, exactly. So anyways, yeah, This is just high energy perfection from the get go. Like, this is one of those nights when the Dead are on and the Dead are on. Also has two more of my favorite things from this entire Dick's Picks. A second song, Bird Song, when during the middle of it, apparently Jerry breaks a guitar string, so Keith takes over, and there is just some beautiful piano playing. And that sort of carries through, especially during the Dark Star, that also will rank as my all-time favorite Dark Star from this series. Yeah, it's just to hear Keith. This is early on. There's no Pigpens in the band right now. Mickey's back in the fold for a while, so we got no. Mickey's not back in the fold for a while. That's right. Mickey's still on hiatus. So, but yeah, man, just phenomenal stuff. Yeah. So what do we get? We get a Promised Land. We get a Bird Song that is absolutely epic. Just because you get to hear Keith, and it's not too spacey. It's definitely not too out there. It's just kind of chill, kind of like they don't really know what to do with Birdsong. But again, it's because Jerry broke a guitar string. But I almost wish Jerry broke a guitar string in every Birdsong from this era, so Keith could just explore a little more. Get a China Rider right in the middle of it. You get a good Big Railroad Blues. Again, that's one of those I'm always here for. A nice loser, and for some reason a Big River, but this is a complete show, so that explains that. And the second set, first set finishes off on disc 2. We get a Ramble on Rose, a really good Cumberland Blues, and a really good playing in the band. Again, the playing in the bands at this point, we're exploring, we're going out there, we're trying to figure things out. We're not quite pushing the envelope as we would a year and a half later, but we're definitely heading in that direction, and it's a really nice playing in the band. Second set opens up with a He's Gone. We get a Truckin'. We get another Black Peter. All of a sudden, we're overloaded with Black Peters. Not going to complain about that. We're in the second set, and we get a Mexicali Blues. So that's a weird choice coming after a He's Gone, Truckin', Black Peter. But it kind of works, because what's next? Where Jerry's like, forget that Mexicali Blues stuff. We got a Dark Star. We got a 37-minute Dark Star. This Dark Star, for like the first 30 minutes, I would describe as sort of your quintessential, a pure version of Dark Star. The beauty of Dark Star is that it's one of those songs that once that door is open, the band really can go anywhere, and often does, right? You go to deep space, you get jazzy, sometimes you get a little rocky, sometimes you quote another song and you get beautiful, sometimes there's a Spanish jam, sometimes there's a Mind Left Body jam. This is one of those Dark Stars that almost for the first 30 minutes feels like it's in Dark Star territory. It's firmly where, like, at any moment you recognize that that's what we're in. And it's still exploratory. It's still going a lot of different places. It's going out there, but we don't ever seem to lose that narrative thread that, like, at any moment, even when we get way out here, we can still get right back into a verse. And it just has that, just a very pure Dark Star energy. And I think for me, those are my favorite Dark Stars. This one, the one from Volume 2, which is just kind of laid back and spacey, has a nice tightened up jam. But this one just, I don't know. This is what a Dark Star to me is like, the purest, and the ones I enjoy the most, the ones I like to go back to the most. But the other cool thing about this is at about the 30-minute mark, they go into this much more sort of aggressive, I will say, though it's definitely not assertive or angry or like way too like metallic, but it almost sounds like, I think Jerry's finger picking, like, but he's finger picking his electric guitar, and it almost has this like midnight moonlight kind of banjo-y type attack to it, that just gives it this really, really crazy energy that just, I don't know, it's just like this out of nowhere, just like, and it just seems like Jerry is aggressively like finger picking, but he's got the distortion on his guitar, so it makes like sort of these weird little tones, and I don't know, it's a very strange energy. But like, to go that first 30 minutes and then all of a sudden you're just like here, it just felt, I don't know, it just, every time it gets there, it just makes me, it arrives much sooner than I ever think it will be. Like, those 30 minutes go by so quickly, and then we get to that ending jam, and it's just like, this is oddly aggressive in a really weird style. But anyways, my favorite Dark Star from this entire run is from Volume 36. That goes into a Morning Dew. How do you complain about that? We get a Beat It On Down, Mississippi Sugar, and then a nice fast Friend of the Devil. And then to close out the entire show, we get a Not Fade Away going down the road, back into Not Fade Away. Just high energy, nothing too epic about all these, but the great vibes from the Dark Star are still carrying through. Closes with a One More Saturday Night, and then the bonus tracks from Denver, Colorado. We get a He's Gone, into a 30-minute other one, back into Wharf Rat. Yeah, I don't care what disc I put on. The energy is good. The songs are good. The performances are great. And there's a lot of really good Keith. A lot of moments where Keith is like, yeah, you're making a huge difference in the sound, and I love you. And I wish there were more. He was more present in more tapes, and I wish he was just more. I wish Jerry broke more strings. But my number one, my number 5 overall, volume 36. That's it, people. I am done with the Dick's Picks. Let's quickly bring up right here. This is the list right there of all of them. As you can see, number 36 jumped to number 5. Number 31 jumped all the way to number 10. The lowest of this group was number 32, which started at 25. So as I said, this was the highest ranked group of 6. Still, the majority of those on the bottom are 9, 27, what is 21? 21 also are like 80, 90 shows, more late era shows that just don't quite push the envelope in the ways that I like. They're still really good listens and really good shows, but they fall back there because they don't quite have that like no holds barred exploration for like 20, 25 minutes, which I like those longer jams. But yeah, so anyways, we got 4 way up there. 4 and 8 made the top 10, 270 shows, months apart. I think 2 or 3 months apart. We got a 68 show up there with number 20. So yeah, and then that 2-disc 77 show all the way up at number 3. Still just a perfect selection of songs from a May 77 show. But yeah, so that's that. And then we have for Dark Star, like I said, my favorite Dark Star is the one on 36. I think it's just pure sounding. That volume 2, laid back, chill, that tighten up. They're all good. Like really, I think we don't get kind of weak until we get down to 14, which is kind of just a jam. 22 is just like they serve up the song, they kind of get it out of the way before they segue into a bunch of other things. Kind of opens the door for like a segue fest. And then 27, that Oakland Coliseum show, I was there. I was disappointed. I saw the first set like days earlier. That was a disappointing Dark Star. This was the second set like 3 or 4 shows later. Disappointed again. That's my own personal beef. I'll get over it. But yeah, that's it. I'm done with these. Yay. It was fun to go back and relive all these shows and sort of like revisit these moments and kind of remember what they had released. But this is a phenomenal series. Like, if your list looks completely different from mine, I understand, because really it just boils down to favorites. But you cannot go wrong with any of these shows. Even that 27 show has its moments, especially if you weren't there. But anyways, thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, do all that weird stuff. Let me know what you think of these. I love the fact that some people are going back and visiting those and sharing their thoughts and how well I maybe capture the vibe. Love to know if I do a good job or a bad job or any of that stuff. So anyways, thanks for watching. This was a long video. I had a lot to say about these shows because they are fantastic. And I will see you next time, y'all. Peace.